Hey everybody, Kenny here. So before we get going, I decided to record a little disclaimer just so I don't waste anybody's time. The Path of Exile videos that I post on my channel are not meant for people who play at the highest levels of skill. This is for people who are relatively new to the game and are looking for ideas for how to progress through the game. So these will mostly be kind of builds that are good for people leveling through Acts 1 through 5. And this league, I'll be changing things up a little bit and also doing some builds that would be good for builds that would go from Act 6 through the end of the game. But just a couple of each of those. That's all I'm doing this league. And also, I don't use Path of Building. That's not a part of my process. I might post a link in the description with an unlisted video showing what my actual process is for creating builds for anyone who's interested in how I do that. Other than that, I don't want to keep any of you here who aren't interested in that kind of content here any longer than you need to be. So you're stopping by, and those of you who are still here, let's get going.
Is captured, survivor. I know it. You are well prepared for the end. This is a fine capture. An exhilarating hunt, Exile. Now, it is time.
And with that out of the way, I'd like to introduce you to my Wand Mining Saboteur build. Obviously, this is outrageously powerful. Honestly, it wouldn't be hyperbole to say that it is absolutely overtuned right now. But, you know, this is the first league to have this gem in it, so it is to be expected. Going straight into our gem setup. Obviously, the skill that we were using was Kinetic Blast. So this is a wand skill that creates multiple explosions where the wand attack hits. We're supporting that with greater multiple projectiles, increased area of effect because of the explosions, swift assembly so we could have additional mines thrown out at a time. And of course, the new Locust Mine support gem, which allows us to turn our wand attack gem into an active mine. To be honest, this is actually the very first time I've used wands in about 8 to 9 years. Like, the first time I ever used mines in Path of Exile was back when it was before the game had gone 1.0, so it was still in beta. And it was when we had access to Act 3, but only up to where Piety was the end of the game. So I was running my Marauder through Merciless Act 3, and at the time the game was split into difficulties. So you would complete the game on normal, then you would complete the game on cruel, then you complete the game on Merciless, and then once you completed the game on Merciless, then you would unlock maps. At the time, the kind of like the hardest area during the campaign in Merciless was the docks. So you'd go into the docks, and if you didn't have good enough defenses, then the fire-breathing dogs would just murder you, just instant murder. And so, since the character I was running was a Marauder that was using slamming skills, it wasn't working out that I needed to be in melee range to fight these things that could hit you before you could get into melee range. But I had at the time found, which to date is still my only covenant, and with this I was able to turn my fully strength attack based Marauder able to take that character and turn them into a caster by just stacking up on the mine and having it be supported by a bunch of different spells, and then just putting them down, consuming all my life to put down the mines, then run past all the enemies and have them chase me into the minefield, which was the only way that I was able to do the docks in Merciless back then, but with the melee character. And since then, I haven't used mines on any character. I've done traps a few times, but I never bother touching mines, because every time I think of mines, I think of my experience in Merciless with my Marauder. So, to be honest, I'm not entirely clear on all of the mechanics on mines now, since for whatever reason mines count as auras. Like I assume that it has to do with the fact that they reserve your life and mana, but they've always done that. Well, so it's been many years since I played mines, so I'm assuming they've always done that. Because thinking back on it, I don't actually recall if the way that they used to work was that they reserved your life, if I was reserving my life when I was putting them down, or if I was just consuming a bunch of my life each time I put one down. But however it worked. Actually, so I'm pretty sure it didn't use a reserve life. And now that I'm thinking on it, I'm pretty sure that it just that. And mind you, I'm not saying they used to cost life. I'm saying that the way I played mines was with the Covenant on, which had implicit blood magic, which meant that all of my skills cost life instead of mana. But since my Marauder was all based around strength, attack, regeneration, having a life cost to something didn't matter. And I'm pretty sure that if I was reserving all of my life in order to use all of those mines back then that strategy probably wouldn't have worked out. So based on that, on kind of logicking it out, I think that it used to just be that it cost, had a cost to it. It didn't have a reservation to it. But now they say that they count as auras in some way, which I don't really get what that means. I haven't looked into what it means for a mine to be considered an aura. If it means something beyond the fact that it reserves your life or mana or whatever you're using to cast a skill, I really don't know. I haven't looked into it. But what I do know is that you reserve your resource in order to put down the mines, and then you either use the implicit skill that comes with mines, which is to press D, or to detonate, or you get the detonate mines gem, which is what I recommend doing, just because this puts it on a button that you're using. I don't have D on my controller, and I don't want to add D to my controller just to be able to detonate mines. So, you can throw down a bunch of mines, and then hold down the detonate mines button to do the crazy stuff you saw in that gameplay demo. Aside from that, the only skill you saw me using was I have Dash being supported by Second Wind, so I can use it more often. And I was using Herald of Ash and Herald of Thunder, I believe. Yeah. Using Herald of Ash and Herald of Thunder. But, the only reason I was using... So I have all three set here. All three of the elemental ones set here. And the reason for that is that I wanted to get some more elemental damage into the build, but at the same time I didn't want to consume too much of my mana. That's why I only use 2 of them instead of using all 3. As each time we throw down mines, we are essentially consuming 11 mana. And as you saw, we were putting down a lot of those mines at a time, so that stacks up really fast. So you don't want to consume too much of your mana with auras to, if you're gonna run this skill. I also have the stance skills in here, Flesh and Stone and Blood and Sand. The reason that these are on here is that with Flesh and Stone, while you're in Sand stance, it makes it that enemies are blinded while they're near you. So I was seeing if that seemed like a nice defensive option, but it never really came into play. So that's why you didn't see me running around with that on. And Blood and Sand only works with melee skills, so it wasn't even worth putting on here. I think I had it already from last league, and then I just decided to leave it on there. Yeah, but aside from that, that's all of the gems that we're using in this build. Gear-wise, we are all over the place here. Our helmet is armor and evasion, our gloves are pure evasion, our boots are evasion energy shield, our chest is pure... so our chest is energy shield, but so this was a 5 link that dropped as a magic item with all white sockets. So I upgraded it to a rare item and did some crafting on it to give it some nice defenses. Obviously not for this character, because the character is not spec'd into armor in any way, but for a character that does have armor, this would actually be a pretty nice chest to have on. But obviously I put this on specifically because it had it's 5 white, which means that I could put any gems I want in any order. But you don't necessarily need to have a 5 link setup to run Locust Mine. You could absolutely do this without the Swift Assembly. You could do this without the increased area effect. Obviously, greater multiple projectiles would be working your way up to greater multiple projectiles from lesser multiple projectiles would be a good way to go, but you don't necessarily need to go that route. But obviously what you definitely do want to have is if you're going to grab this from the start, then mess around with it with Kinetic Bolt, support that skill with Kinetic Bolt, and then eventually upgrade to Power Siphon, and then eventually upgrade to Kinetic Blast. Or if you prefer Kinetic Bolt or Power Siphon, then go with those. I prefer Kinetic Blast for this, only because it looks really cool. And that's my reason. It looks super cool. And I kind of built the character around it. So if we go into our passives, instead of going for the actual mine stuff, I went down this route to Bomb Specialist, so that Our hits have a chance to deal more area damage, and we have a chance to take less area damage. So we have that going on for us. Then I grabbed some damage energy shield from here. I invested in the evasion energy shield there. Damage, life, attack speed. Attack speed doesn't matter for us. Mostly for the dexterity and intelligence there. Then up here for the crit chance, crit multiplier, and of course our trap and mine, throwing speed, damage, and saboteur for the increased number of remote mines we can place at a time. Then more damage, life and energy shield on kill, spell suppress, maximum life, maximum energy shield, movement speed, and dexterity, along with some physical damage. Over this way for more life and energy shield, as well as the flat life mastery, more life and energy shield, more stats from here, more crit multiplier. We go into here in order to convert some of our wands, well, not convert, but in order to add some additional lightning damage to our mines based on the physical damage on our wands. We got 30% of our physical damage that we gain as extra lightning damage. And I got the wand mastery that makes our wands fire an additional projectile. And up here for the mine reservation efficiency, so we don't consume as much. And makes it that our mines have a chance to be detonated in additional time. And I got the mine mastery that our mines can't be damaged. Then went to the big cluster here. So mine damage, mine crit chance, and crit multiplier. The notables for mines penetrating elemental resistances, mines having increased duration, being able to put down additional mines, mines having increased detonation speed, major increases to crit chance and crit multiplier, also with a chance to provide a power charge when our mines detonate and target an enemy. Which honestly, I don't know if that bottom stanza can actually occur, since technically the way that the support gem works is that it causes ourselves to be the target of the mine. So I'm not entirely sure if that bottom one does anything for us, but we get a bunch more crit chance crit multiplier with our mines. Then some additional detonation speed. And I got the mine mastery for making it that we gain increased area effect for each mine. And we're using a bunch of mines, so that works out. If Kinetic Blast wasn't the kind of focus of this build, then I probably would have gone for something else. Probably would have tried out this increased effect of auras from mines, see what that's about. Since, you know, we get 30% from the mastery there, and then in the ascendancy you get an additional 150%. Yeah, but like I said, I don't understand what that particularly means, but yeah, like I might have tried it out if my goal wasn't to use Kinetic Blast for this. Yeah, but like honestly, very simple to put together. Like, you know, like obviously the only thing you really need are some decent wands. So these have these are above average wands, obviously. Like my Crucible League Deadeye was a wand build. So I was very focused on getting the best wands I could. And so, like, you know, they not only like are very decent on the regular stats they have on them, they also have their crucible trees on them. So more spell damage, more mana, more crit chance. Well, spell crit chance. And making it that marks have reduced effect, but have a chance to grant frenzy charge. Obviously, I'm not using marks with this, but that's the crucible tree that had. And this one gives extra fire damage spells and chance to ignite. And I didn't finish the rest of it because it wasn't necessary for the character I was running. Yeah, so those are like really the only thing you really need is, you know, some good wands for to make this work. You know, and obviously the defenses don't really matter here, since this is all about, you know, this is a build for, you know, acts like 1 through 5. So, you know, it doesn't really matter like how good your defenses are. And, you know, since this character is at the end of Act 6 with with completely unbalanced gear that does nothing defensively for them. Like obviously like you can get by from acts 1 through 5, you'll be doing just fine. Amulet wise, I just have a stat amulet with some extra damage to attacks that I crafted some extra resistances onto. Then a crit ring with more stats, more damage to attacks. The mana regen and some crafted on damage to attacks. The mana regen doesn't really matter, which like I don't know if you noticed it during the gameplay preview, but well, not preview, the gameplay section. But when you're using mines, since you're like reserving all of your mana by throwing them all down, it doesn't matter how much mana, like, you know, how good your mana regen is, because, you know, like you're going to be because you're going to be consuming it regardless of if you have your mana high enough to actually support you reserving that mana. So, like, you know, like the amount of mana you have is irrelevant. Like your ability to recover your mana doesn't matter. Like the fact that I have 2 mana flasks on here is really dumb of me. Like these don't help me at all. Like I should have replaced these with other utility flasks or more life flasks. You know, like these aren't helping me in the slightest, because I don't need my mana for this. The only thing my mana is really doing for me at all is that it gives me a means of using dash. That's all mana is good for in this build for me. Yeah, but gloves, you know, these are Tendency Trial gloves, so they have trigger word of flame on it, which, you know, like you weren't seeing occurring at all because this doesn't count as you hitting, since it's the mine that's doing the thing. Honestly, and even all of the like the damage to attacks, I'm not entirely sure if that's being added. Actually, I can probably check that right now. 714. Yeah, okay. So damage to attacks is applying to the mines because it is an attack gem, and this is supporting an attack gem. So that stuff does transfer over, which is good. And yeah, more damage to attacks, more regen. I crafted on strength because this character was using like a stat build before. Like it was last league I had set them up to use a Pillar of the Caged God. So, you know, so they were set up to have tons of intelligence, strength, and dexterity. That's why like, that has strength on it. Yeah, but the like the unique belt and boots, they don't do anything for the build. It's just, you know, this character has been wearing these for... I mean, I think I found these during the league where I first ran this character, and I think they've just been wearing them since that league. I think that was Expedition League, I think. Yeah, so you know, like the equipment this character is wearing, irrelevant. Obviously, having more damage to attack stuff on your gear is helpful here, since, you know, that is applying to the mines, and the more damage you have to each of those, the more that's being applied to all of the explosions that are happening everywhere. So all good stuff all around. Very fun build. Definitely recommend it. Like, I guarantee like this will probably blow through the first 5 acts pretty easy. Like the reason that I did the gameplay section in the flood caves, I guess. Not really sure what to call that area. But the reason I did it there is that, you know, there are it's not like that area is not beneficial to the build. You know, like, and I always try to make sure that wherever I demo, like I'm not showing like the best circumstances for whatever build I'm showing off. I always want to make sure that, you know, like there's plenty of opportunity for me to fail in however I'm set up, just to show that, you know, like it is valid to play the build as long as you are being at least somewhat attentive and and aren't just holding the button down while you're like, you know, scrolling on your phone or something. Because that will not work out with this character. They need to be running at all times. If this character stops, they die. Yeah, like, but I highly recommend this. This is definitely a great low-level build. I hope if you try out the new skill that you have a great time with it. As always, if you found any of these tips helpful, then I appreciate doing all the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, Ray Victus, Virus and Numeris, and bye.